Okay. Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on the place from which are you watching us. Thank you that you decided to spend the next hour with your roots in Poland. And today we're gonna speak about how to read multilingual documents without actually speaking the language they are in. And can you hear me? Can you see me? Is everything okay? Okay, thanks. So let's start. Today we will speak about some useful tips for reading in Polish, reading in Latin, reading in German, in Russian, Lithuanian, and a little bit of Yiddish and a little bit of Hebrew. Why do we need so many languages while researching Polish genealogy? It's mostly because in different parts of Poland, various languages were used. So the documents are also written in those, let's say 8, but I didn't count languages. So we may meet a document that is written usually in Russian, in Polish, in Latin, and in German. So it is very, very, very useful to know how to cope with such documents, even if we don't speak German or Russian or so on, and even if we don't speak Polish. So we will start with Polish today. And there is one movie that is very this is a Polish comedy, and I will show you just a few seconds of this movie, because this shows how we are aware that Polish language sounds to non-Polish speakers. So.
Naam en voornaam?
Grzegorz Brzęczy-Sztykiewicz. Brzęczy-Sztykiewicz. Brzęczy-Sztykiewicz.
Has?
Jawohl.
Schreib das sofort auf die Maschine.
Name und Vorname.
Grzegorz Brzęczy-Sztykiewicz.
Wie? Brzęczy-Sztykiewicz. Geboren.
Chrząszcz Czyżewoszyce, powiat Łękołody.
Oh.
Naam en voornaam?
Grzegorz Brzęczy...
It's already finished by me, so I hope it's okay. Anyway, for those who could hear the joke, we are over, and then we'll begin with the names and the languages and so on. We know that there are some very useful names or words that would be good to use while we doing the research, the genealogical research, and we have just few. I have written here just a few useful words, but here, when I linked the Polish language genealogical list from Family Search, here you can find a little bit more and a little bit more things explained on how Polish grammar works and why things look just as they look. But well, I will try to explain to you some useful things during this webinar. And here I usually add a place to just look up after we finish. Well, the thing that is a little bit scary when we start thinking about learning the Polish language is that there are many various ways to conjugate or to declinate the words in Polish, and also we know that there are diacritic signs, so it looks a little bit scary, but the things we need to know when we just begin the research is that there are like the endings of the words may change during just because of the case or of this place in the sentence, but here is a very useful book that I would recommend when you'd like to self-study civil register documents such as metrical books and so on. There is a translation guide to 19th century Polish language civil records. And we'll just take a look on few things that are already listed on Family Search, so you can look them up. We just need to know how the numbers look, and it's a little bit more complicated. But just as we look at the first part of the word, we know that which means the first day of the month or something like that. But this is everything, just we need the vocabulary. So I will try to explain the things here that are not so much vocabulary related. And here we go with Polish surnames that might be confusing sometimes. And it goes so because we are not always aware of the things like the gender of the word. So there are two types of very common Polish surnames, which end with ski and ski, and this is something that we see and can easily guess that this is probably a Polish or at least a Slavic surname. Here, as you can see, there we can guess whether the surname belongs to the woman or man, because the endings, the suffixes ending with "e", like I, ski, are male suffixes. And then the female suffixes are ska, so they end with a. I know that during the immigration and so on, there is very most likely every surname just became the male form. So like Kowalski and not Kowalska for a woman living somewhere abroad. And there is another thing on Polish surnames, which refers mostly to some Polish surnames from the interwar period, let's say like pre-war times, that we can meet in the documents, and this can also give us information about whether the lady is already married or whether is she single. So when we have other surnames like Novak, for example, when we have a woman that has married a man named Novak, she will be Nowakowa or Niedźwiedziowa, as I can see a list here, Toporkowa, Mikołajczykowa, and so on. And when there is unmarried female, so when there is a single lady that is with a maiden name Novak, she may be listed as Nowakówna, Niedźwiedziówna, Mikołajczykówna, Gutenbergówna, and so on. So here we go with information on Polish records, and here just a link to Latin, because Latin, this is the language used mostly in older Polish metrical records, so like 18th century and 19th century in Galicia, and mostly at the beginning of 19th century, the language was changed to Polish and to German, depending on the place we are speaking. So that was only the link. So I really encourage to use it during some older personal research, like the research on older times. And we just jump into German. And German might be really confusing, not because of the language itself, from the Prussian and Austrian part of Poland, but it can be actually challenging because of the way it looks, because the old German writing slightly differs from what we expect, or just might be hardly decipherable. So here we can use a very nice tool created by German scholars from Eichar-Führer, so Archivführer, and this is so-called Kurrentschreibmaschine in German. So this is a typewriter for old German. And here, when we use this site, it can be very useful, because here I just put here few print screens. But when we use it and when we choose a letter that we can recognize from our record we are struggling with, we can choose a letter by letter, and then this Schreibmaschine, so the typewriter, shows us possible words that can that include those parts that we have already read. So here I'm just showing the two letters written in the typewriter, and here we go with some exemplary word. and some exemplary usings of this word in the original documents. So when we are struggling with old German writing, that might be very, very good place to look up. And actually, we are moving to Russian. And this is like the background photo is really a picture of the documents we had to research a few months ago. And with Russian, we of course have another difficulty because we have another alphabet. We have Cyrillic alphabet, and unfortunately, we can't like jump over this step. We just need to learn the Cyrillic. And when we do, it also like we need our eyes to get used to the 19th century handwritten documents written in Cyrillic, because it may look very, very confusing. But the Russian language documents are just the same in the meaning of what they are saying, just like Polish written documents from the period from before 1868 and after the First World War. So there you can just look up some Polish written sources written in Latin alphabet. And here, as I tried to highlight the information that such records include, we have recorded another webinars on what exactly the documents from various parts of Poland, from Russian, Prussian, and German part of Russian, Prussian, and Austrian part of Poland are telling us. So I won't translate here like whole sentences, but just to show you that we begin every act with a similar story. So we read that in a place called blah 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 on the day, and here when we learn just how to decipher the days and the names of the months, we read who came to register the birth of the child, the marriage, or someone's death. Sometimes, as here, we can read that this is Stanisław Socik. There are only few words written here in Latin alphabet. Sometimes they are written like double written in Cyrillic and in Polish, let's say. And sometimes they're only in Russian. But when we just have some practice reading Russian language metrical documents, we can just see here that they are in the same places of the card of the document. So here at the top, we are just looking for the name of the person who's reporting the such an event. Then we read here in the middle, like who's more involved in this situation. Like here we can read that this is Wiktoria Skorzeniowskich. So Wiktoria was a wife of Stanisław Socik, who came to report birth of his son that was Władysław. And here at the bottom we see the name Władysław. And so when we just use some very similar, like when we use some helps, some genealogical tools, such like already translated already translated records. There we will find like the whole story that is written, and we will need only to look in the same places more or less to find the words we are interested in. And there are mostly the dates, the names, and the places. And here we go with one thing that is kind of useful, and we don't need to know here the Cyrillics. So this is in Russian. This is odчество, and those are the patronyms. And the patronyms are usually listed sometimes when the metrical records are indexed. We can also see that they are written down patronyms. And patronyms give us information, of course, about the father. So when we see, for example, Abram Szmulowicz Goldberg, let's say, we can know that Abram's father was Shmuel. Here, as I'm showing in this example, like when we know that the father's name was Abram, so his son will be like between the name and the surname, there will be a patronym Abramovich. When there is a lady, when there is Abram's daughter, she will be Abramovna. And then this is similar of Ivan Ivanovich, daughter of Ivan Ivanovna, and so on and so on. So we just need to pay attention to the suffixes that are telling us about the person. And we continue our little road trip, and we go to Lithuania. And Lithuanian language is usually associated with its endings, because when we go to Lithuania, every word, like we have an impression that every word ends with as. So we don't have, for example, John Lennon, but we have Jonas Lennonas, Albertas Einsteinas, Brigitte Bardot, and almost everything ends with as. And sometimes we may wonder, why does it look so? So it looks that, and the as or other endings are added just to be able to be used in the language, because just like in Polish and just like in Russian language, there are cases and the endings of the word are changing, but we don't have the words like the prepositions that would give us the context of for example, of the place, if we are in the place, or if we are going from this place, from this town, or are we born in the town, or are we going to the town, the ending always differs. So we have just only few ways to see what is the ending in the Lithuanian language. So they are mostly for male endings. There are as, is, us, and for female endings it's a and e. And again, we might have a little struggle with Lithuanian surnames. And here we have analogical situation, just as in Russian, just as in Polish. We have the ending of the surname, of Lithuanian surname, let's say Terleckas, and the ending is as, and it's usually as or is. And here there is a tool created by Lithuanian Genealogical Society. It's just works in an Excel file, and here when we type the Lithuanian male surname form, it shows us feminine surnames, and it goes with the ending aite for single ladies, for unmarried ladies, and with the ending ene for married ladies. So this is again the way we can get some information just only looking at the word. And this is very important when we use Lithuanian sources like Lithuanian databases, because unfortunately, or fortunately for Lithuanians, we need to adapt the language, we need to adapt the name, just like I showed you at the beginning. For example, let's have our John Lennon, so Jonas Lennonas. We need to write it according to Lithuanian weight or Lithuanian orthography, Lithuanian spelling, because we will not be able to find the exact word in the database. And here's another thing, just to show you how it looks. So there are some endings of the names of the of Lithuanian towns, because when we would like to use Lithuanian database or some Lithuanian some other Lithuanian sources like Lithuanian online archives or some genealogical sites, we may be also confused when we have some name of the town. We need to remember that sometimes we know only the Polish or the Russian name or the Yiddish name of the town. So especially with Lithuania, we would have to pay attention to know how the name of this town or this city is pronounced in Lithuanian. And then we just, as you can see, the first words of this is the list of metrical records in Lithuanian Genealogical Association, Genmetrika. And here you can see like U, Yo, U. And this is important. And this is important only because, like, I know it sounds like it just looks like a foreign language. So there are the endings we have to pay attention on because they show us that this is the dative case. The dative case tells us about the possession. It tells us that there are the metrical records that are coming from the specific town, like Annexiu knygai are the knygai from Onextis. So here, just to take a look, no need to learn it by heart. We can see that there is a nominine form at the beginning, and the second line is the dative form. So before we type like metrical books of the town, of some Lithuanian town, we would need to just change the ending to U or O. You can just guess and put it into Google, and then it will direct us to the Lithuanian databases, because unfortunately they don't work, like they're not sensitive for our like ignorance to Lithuanian grammar. So this is the way to search for them, because they are available. And how to reach them, we spoke about it in different webinars. And we're fast today. We're jumping to Yiddish and Hebrew, and of course we have here another alphabet and another story. But just from the language or the linguistical part of this, when we don't know the alphabet, we can just be aware of a few facts, because sometimes when we are researching Jewish genealogy, it usually refers to those who are not connected with Jewish culture, and we need to remember that sometimes we can find the same person under a few different names that have actually one exact meaning. Like it happens here when we have, for example, Leib and Arya, which is Leib and Arya means lion. The first is in Yiddish, the second is in Hebrew. But also we can have Lev for the Polish language or Russian. The same thing goes with Tzvi and Hersh. Wolf, Zev, like wolf, Golda and Zlata. This is the gold, and the second Zlata means gold in Polish. And sometimes there are Polish versions, let's say. Sometimes there are the names that have similar sounding, like it's quite common that Basheva is Basia, which is Barbara in Polish. Sometimes there are the surnames are translated. This is very, very common during the Ellis Island, but it also happened when the person was changing the language and also their area. Like sometimes there was a person named Grünbaum, and it changed to Zielone Drzewo, when Grünbaum and Zielone Drzewo means green tree. Then we have various Ashkenazic forms of the Jewish names. So when we have Israel, we can have Yisroel, but also we can have Srul. And very, very, very different forms, like similarly Yaakov, Jacob, and Yankel. And there is also another. The last thing here will be the endings and the diminutive forms of the names, because I really love Yiddish, because it just describes things just as they are. And this is very common in Yiddish to use diminutive forms. Sometimes we have the endings like when the child was called, for example, Leibuś, which is a Polish diminutive suffix to leib, so to lion, aria. It was just written in the documents as Leibuś. And those endings are taken, like the L is very common in Yiddish, but like all of them actually are common in Yiddish, but the L doesn't come from the Slavic diminutive suffixes, and the other suffixes, they come from Polish or from Russian, like Chaim, Chaimke, Leib, Leibuś, Avrom, Avromczyk, Sore, Sorcie, Rachela, Rochu, and sometimes we need to just be careful, because we can see different form of the name, and sometimes we don't think that this is the same person. So here we are just showing the possibilities. And here, when we go to the Yiddish and Hebrew names, so there is a Jewish gen database with the language tools that I would really recommend to check. And there is also another Yiddish online tool, which is Yiddish Dictionary Online. This is a very simple website design, let's say. And here we can also use the English or like the Latin transliteration. And here, like with Yiddish or Yiddish sources, or sources that were translated from Yiddish to other languages, we may have very different variants of the spelling, and there are a few reasons why it looks so. So, like from the first thing is that the regular spelling is relatively new thing in Yiddish, because it was created like 95 years ago in Czerniowce during the YIVO conference. But this is not important. The context is not important. You can find here the rules of transliteration. And we need to remember that the spelling differs because Yiddish itself is a very phonetic language. So we just transliterate just as we hear things to Yiddish, to the Hebrew, to the Yiddish alphabet, actually. And that's why the spelling differs when we read sources with the names, for example, the names of the towns or the names of people, the surnames from Yiddish written in Polish, German, English, Russian, and so on, Lithuanian. And now we go to a little bit of maths, because not always, we don't always have things that are indexed and that are like already translated for us in the databases. When we want to read, for example, a Jewish gravestone, and when we are not very fluent with that, we can just remember that every letter of Hebrew alphabet has its value. and every letter refers to some certain numbers. So when we have to read gravestone, Matseva on our own, we have here the numbers and the letters. But we don't have to do this, like, we don't have to count this every time on our own, because also at Jewish Gen, we can have a conversion program, and it will just do the maths instead of us. So here's another tool that will help us to read Jewish dates. Like now, this is the time for the questions, if you have any. If there are questions, because I didn't. Will there be a handout of the presentation? We will add the list of the used like databases and links to the website. So yes, we will list the list actually in the email that you will receive. So yes, and also in the Facebook event. So. Some time ago, I found a lady from my genealogical tree whose surname was Lange, but why? But I also found another source where her surname was Langówna. I believe it is the same person. What do you think? Yes, yes, yes. This is just the things the thing I thought, like it wasn't like sorry, we won't find always the same form. Like sometimes we just see the Lange form, like the male form of the surname, and sometimes it depended mostly on the person who was creating the act. We will see it changed to the female forms. I have records in Russian where the ending on the name, what does it, when the ending on the name is ch, what does it mean? Actually, this is the most common, like one of the most common endings of Russian surnames, just. And the second is that this is sometimes it may also refer, like there may be the same rule as with patronyms we spoke about. So like I'm run out of the example, so I will just say Burnatovich. So this is the ending that could happen, but sometimes it also refers to the possession, let's say, like the or to the patronym. So like there was the first Abram, or the first Petro, let's say, or the first Ivan many years ago, and his son was named Abramovich, Ivanovich, Petrovich, and so on. So it could just stay and functionate as a surname. And also the second thing is just how the Russian surnames are created. So there I would recommend to, if you're interested just in the whole meaning of the surname, that would be good to check the etymological dictionary. I think I can use the rule provided by YPU today. I'm sorry, I don't think that I understood the question. Is there a dictionary of Polish abbreviations for institutions, etc.? Well, I would for this I would use. I think that the family search dictionary, let's say, would be enough. Like there are because we had only a few minutes to discuss every language, but there you can find a way how to create the abbreviation. So there you can check this. In death records, I see the men's names with an A added, Leiba or Srula. Is this a case change? Yes. This is dative. So this is like the, for example, the son of Leib or the son of Srul will be syn Leiba or syn Srula. So yes, this is the dative form. And by the way, sorry, that was this is the same thing that you may find if you're interested. You might find it in this family search, like basic Polish for genealogy that was listed before. So yes. The Ukrainian surnames have male and female variants. Yes, it goes very very similar, just like with Russian. And I really don't like to say that this is similar to Russian, but in this kind of when we want to use it and to understand it like that, yes, we can apply this rule to most of the Ukrainian surnames. During your last webinar, you showed us the book for learning Old German writing, Kurenta. Yes. Do you know if it is still on sale? If yes, maybe you know where. This is yes, this is the same. Yeah, sorry, that was the Polish last Polish webinar on the same topic. I think that this is for the Polish variant for the Old German writing is available just by its website. I think. For a family in Belarus, could the surname ending in ski be the same family as when the surname ends with Vich, Boguslavich, and Boguslavski? Yes, like it happens. Just like I spoke a little bit more with the Yiddish and Polish cases, but it happened like between the languages, because people who lived here, like in the historical territory of Poland, were just multilingual, and when the borders or where the politics were changing, it sometimes happens. Sometimes independent. It's just dependent on the person who created the records, and sometimes the surname changed, just stayed with the family. Say like the change from, for example, Bogusławski to Bogusławicz. And sometimes it just goes back when the language of the surrounding goes back. So sometimes we can have Bogusławicz and then again Bogusławski when the Bogusławski was the first form. I had a great-grandfather named Szulem Szlamowicz and his father Szlama Szulimowicz. Is there a rule that his father would be Szulim and so on? Yeah, that was the looks so similar that I was a little bit confused at the beginning. This is the patronym from the Russian I discussed. So this is like the Szulem Szlamowicz. The Szlamowicz form shows us that his father was Szlama, and Szlama Szulimowicz shows us that Szlama's father was Szulim. Sometimes the surname, it was just the patronym, stayed as a surname and serves to the next generations. And sometimes it was just it only referred to the person, but yes, like originally and especially in this case, it showed us the information about the father. So this is the patronym. What would the Ukrainian male and female variants be in surname endings? Well, I don't speak Ukrainian, so there might be some variant that I won't mention here, but it works just like with other Slavic languages, so just like with Polish and Russian. So the endings, the regular endings would be ski, ski, or with the endings ski, ski, but yeah, just like that. And then the female forms, like with something itself, would be ska, skaya, ska, skaya. And with the patronyms or the thing that the endings that will tell us whether the lady is married or not, it would be Ovna, Evna, or Ova. So like I will use your surname, just like Vaisovna and Vaiseva. Just to illustrate the ending. Well, all our, like, not only my, but also presentations of other members of our Your Roots in Poland company are available via YouTube. So when you type there Your Roots in Poland, you will find our webinars. Some of them are in Polish, and some of them are in English. So So yeah, just they are available via YouTube. So thank you again. And if you will have any other questions, like when you have these small questions related to know-how, so just don't hesitate to write us on our Facebook group, Polish Genealogy Helper. And if you have any other questions, so just you can contact us via email. So thank you, dziękuję, spasiba, aciu, toda on naszyjnym dank.